coming up? Is it coming? Yeah. Please check. So it should be there.
It's good.
Okay, hold on. Let me also play some loop. Tell me if you can hear this. Can you hear it?
I'm broadcasting, Ajay bhai. Yeah, I can hear it. You can mute.
Maya Durga is not dancing yet. Last posting. No, so the
Namaste, Ajay bhai. Namaste.
Namaste, good morning, and welcome to Hindu Lounge. So
Well,
that
welcome. And
welcome.
yeah, it's our 36th episode.
It is our 36th episode, and Utsada, for all of those who are joining us today, I want to say namaste, I want to say welcome, and I want to welcome everyone to Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact, which is a policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, which is VHPA. And this is a show on contemporary American Hindu issues. We come live every week on Sunday morning at around 11 o'clock. I say around because we always have a little bit of technical glitch here and there. We are still coming kind of learning and coming up to speed, introducing new technical elements each week. But I want to really welcome everyone to the show. And as you can see, with me is Maya Durga Chakrabarti, who has been with us for all 36 weeks that we have been doing this show. Namaste, Maya. And there you go. And now,
Namaste. And Maya wishes everybody namaste this Sunday morning. And so Maya herself is 13 months old, and she has been part of the show for more than half of her lifetime.
more than half a life. There you go.
So she's a veteran of this show.
This is a life mission. So, and of course, with me it's Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsavda is the executive director of Hindu Pact, and I am Ajay Shah. I'm the president of World Hindu Council of America, or VHPA. And Utsavda, I mean, this week in some ways is a pretty grim week, right? I mean, this is the week where we had these, protests which turned to riot, and people climbed the walls of the Capitol. And this is not something that I want to present some visuals to everyone so that we can all kind of everyone has seen this on TV, but just to kind of give us some context of of what we are talking about here. So let me share my screen and then get some reactions. So first, this is the as you can see, so that these are the protesters or rioters or whatever you want to call them, climbing the walls of Capitol. And this is not something that is ideal for democracy. So that I want to but this is you know why don't you give me your comments on this particular on this, and we'll move on to the Indian flag and other things in a minute. But just in abstract terms, when you see something like this happen in democracy, any democracy, much less a democracy that is as mature as the US democracy is, that is not a hopeful sign for people who have faith in democracy, right?
Absolutely. And America is the oldest democracy in the world, and by far it is also the most vocal democracy in the world. It has been for at least the last century. So it is a time will be a good judge of what happened in Capitol Hill and what it actually means, because it is a very historical day, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean that in a very dark way. It's a very historical day in terms of what happened at the Capitol Hill, but it is not something that was, in my opinion, that was sudden or unexpected. I will go into the details of it in the rest of our conversation today. But yeah, I mean, for my daughter Maya Durga, 50 years down the road, how she will look at this day is going to be very interesting, and will bring up very interesting conversations.
Yeah, I was, it did bring up, it did bring up some historical context also, and we'll get into it gradually. But this is something that we absolutely do not endorse, and I think regardless of political views that people may have, we have to be unequivocal about making a statement that this is not something that American Hindus who talk about Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu. We want to all come together. We want to discuss the issues. We want to come to a consensus on issues. And when we talk about consensus, these kinds of, uh, this kind of anarchy does not really help, and it's detrimental to the cause that we are propagating. And so it's kind of funny that while that was going on, there was what do you know? There was an Indian flag there, and this became a headline, and especially on the Indian media, and it became a news item on all the Indian TV channels, and a lot of the non-Indian, the traditional American media also picked it up. That what is this guy doing here? And people say, who is this guy? And obviously, I mean, there's, in this world of reverse image searches and other things, it's not very hard to identify the person who is carrying this Indian flag and saying, stop the steal. So it turns out, who was this guy? I let
So,
you reveal
so,
the
so,
secret.
yeah. So I think Ajay, we should first go into the timeline of how the events unfolded and
Sure,
how it happened.
sure.
So I think the first time this gentleman, or couple of gentlemen, one of them are holding an Indian flag. They were together as part of a group. So maybe one person was holding at one time, another person at another time. Basically, it was a couple of Indian Americans who are supporters of President Trump who participated in the protest, and they were outside the Capitol Hill, not inside. I wanted to clarify that. Also, interestingly, it was first picked up by not by Indian media, but by Indian and American Muslim groups, who one of whom very popularly writes as an editor for as an opinion writer for the Washington Post. Her name is Rana Ayub. So it was not just Indian media that picked it up. It was basically pan-Islamic media and American media represented by Muslims who picked it up first and started using it as a way to target American Hindus, blaming American Hindus for supporting white supremacists, which is, there were probably a lot of other racial and ethnic groups who were part of the protest as much as there were white people there. So that's where it started. And then, we will get into the details of how it unfolded and what was the narrative that came out and how it became popular in the Indian media. So it started with Rana Ayub, who's a people know Rana Ayub. They can Google her up. She's a very anti-Hindu activist from India who has been given an opinion writer's role in Washington Post and is currently based out of US. She picked it up. It was followed by another very pro-Pakistani activist from Sweden, whose name is Ashok Swine. He regularly is a social media activist and regularly posts anti-Hindu stuff on social media. He picked it up from Rana Ayub. So it was a concerted, planned effort that came from different points in the world with the same messaging, targeting Hindu Americans for being supporters of white supremacists who were writing. That was the narrative, initial narrative. But in the first couple of hours, this narrative was popularized very fast. And in today's world of social media, when you have well-funded, well-supported influencers getting onto a topic, it becomes popular very fast and becomes very well read in a couple of hours. Then it suddenly came out that the person who was actually carrying the flag most of the time was not even a Hindu. He was an Indian Christian from Kerala and a strong supporter of the party which is opposition to Prime Minister Modi, which is the Congress party, which claims to be a far more socialist, however you may call it in the Indian context, party. So it actually, his name is Vincent Xavier. So Vincent Xavier came up to be the person who was actually carrying the flag most of the time. So it completely countered the narrative that the Rana Ayub and the pan-Islamic information peddlers were pushing around in the first couple of hours. So when that happened, the Indian media picked it up, and Indian media started interviewing. I mean, I think there were a couple of TV channels that even interviewed Vincent Xavier, and then that was the initial conversation that happened, and immediately the pro India, uh, even the Hindus who felt very offended by the portrayal at which the Washington Post opinion writer was pushing, started fighting back on social media and immediately started talking about how this was another way of anti-Hindu hatred that is shared around and promoted on social media using any excuse they can. So Vincent Xavier kind of, unknowingly saved the day, if I can put it that way. And he was very actually candid in his interview. He said he had just taken the flag as a mark of support from multiple nationalities, and he actually said that there were about flags from 8 or 9 other countries, including flags from Australia, a flag from Taiwan, a flag from Vietnam. So it was actually not a big deal. Flag from South Korea. So there were multiple nationalities there, which kind of it's also a slap on the face of the fact that this was a purely white supremacist rally. So this kind of dented the propaganda that was coming out. And then the Rana Ayub group and their research team went back to the drawing board because they just messed up and their whole narrative fell apart. And then they started looking up pictures of who else was in that group who was carrying the national flag along with Vincent Xavier. And then they came up with a Hindu who interestingly has been a prominent Hindu activist in the Washington DC region. He has been a supporter of President Trump's campaign for a long time. His name is Krishna Gudipati, and I have personally known him as well. And he's been an activist in the Hindu community, very very gentlemanly person, and he has done a lot of things for the poor communities around the world, including those in India. So his name came up because he was also one of the people who was in the group of 4 or 5 people who were carrying the national flag of India. So now the anti-Hindu anti-Hindu radicalists, including Rana Ayub and that gang, found a new target, and then they started peddling that one, saying, "Oh look, we said there was a Hindu angle to this. So it's not just Vincent Xavier; it was also Krishna Gudipati who was carrying the flag. In fact, there are multiple pictures of him carrying the flag, and then they went back and took out pictures of him speaking in Sanskrit at some point. Obviously, Sanskrit is in the minds of the Islamists is a language of the Aryans and so whatnot and what. So they can cook up any amount of narratives.
I think we can, but I want to pause there for a second, and I want to show this particular slide that you can see, and this is a press release that came from Aspire and CAPI. And you can see this press release where they're saying, where they're talking about, and this is way before, Krishna Gudipati's picture came out and all of that, but the narrative was already built, and the narrative was blatantly anti-Hindu, right? And the narrative and they put out a press release and said, the Indian tricolor, and I hope everyone can read this. Let me see if I can make it bigger. So
I think we have to make it bigger. Prominent. Yeah, now it's readable.
Okay, great. So it says the Indian tricolor, the only international flag, okay? Here's a picture, and you can see there's a Korean flag, you can see there's an Iranian flag, there's the picture of, there are 16 countries whose flags were there. But what is the press release saying? The only international flag standing out in the sea of American and Trump flags carried by angry insurrectionists, some of them American Indians, and most of the American Indian supporters of Donald Trump are also default supporters of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, propagating the right wing. Now, it's important to note that Xavier has posted a lot of things that are against Hindus, but I'll come to that in a minute, okay? So let me continue on this path. And and so basically they want to peddle their narrative, they want to peddle their lies, and they want to blame Hindus for this riots and protests that happened in Capitol Hill. And so it's like America down south, and then it goes on to say, propagating right-wing extremist Hindu ideology. So I guess they have this template of a press release, and they just have to change a few words and then blame Hindu supporters, right? And they say, and then he goes on and says some of the supporters also carried the saffron flag. No sign of saffron flag, but it's a template, right? Associated with the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the extremist Hindutva ideology group in India. Now, saffron flag is very sacred to Hindus. It flies on every temple, and to say that it is a flag of RSS, is really, RSS uses the flag, mandirs use this flag. It is sacred to Hindus. But in their narrow-mindedness and Hindu phobia and the hatred for Hindus, they will always, these are the kinds of group that will always club, anything they don't like, whether it is the protest at Capitol Hill, whether it is a protest, in some corner of, some country, they will always find an angle to beat up Hindus with. And then they do mention Vincent Xavier in passing, but only in passing, and they never mention that he's not a Hindu. They never mention. So for people who don't understand this, okay, here is a narrative that the Hindutva supporters, or people who follow the essence of Hindu Dharma, people who like the saffron flag, people who are Hindus, are protesting, and here's Vincent, who has long been identified as MAGA. So you see you see how the fake news gets built. Okay, line by line, you can see how the fake news is constructed, and then it goes on to say the right wing, since the right wing Hindu ideology which fuels Modi and the political outfit, the Bharatiya Janata Party has also started fanning the hateful, divisive politics of both Modi and Trump on U.S. soil. Where is the Vincent Xavier? Is not even a BJP supporter, and I'll come to that in a second. Okay, and I can go on and on. I mean, there's a little bit more on this, and basically more of Hindu hate, more of Hindu phobia, equating the Hindus, people who have Hindu interest in mind, with fascism and Hitler and Nazi. The same exact template, regardless of what the event is, regardless of what the issue is, right? And in the fray jumps Shashi Tharoor. Shashi Tharoor is a Congress politician, and Shashi Tharoor has no clue about what is going on in America, but he's a politician. He has to comment. He is very popular on American late night shows and other places, and he is excited that somebody was spotted with the Indian flag. And in his narrow mind, who would carry an Indian flag other than people who are Hindu supporters? Now, he doesn't understand that 16% of India or 17% of India is non-Hindu. And even those people are, a lot of them are nationalists, and a lot of them like Indian flag, unlike maybe Mr. Tharoor, like, so he jumps on it and he says, unfortunately, there are some Indians with the same mentality as the Trumpist mob who enjoy using the flag as a weapon rather than a badge of pride, and denounce all who disagree with them as anti-nationals and traitors. That flag is there. That flag is a warning to us all. Okay, this is a tweet that Shashi Tharoor puts out. Okay, now what happens next, Utsada? This is what happens next. Here is the posting from social media from 11th of April 2015. Here is Vincent Xavier on the left carrying the flag, the weaponized flag, as Shashi Tharoor puts it. And look who is here on the right. It is Vincent Xavier having lunch with
Shashi Tharoor.
Shashi Tharoor. Utsada?
So Ajay bhai,
wait. This requires. All right, now your comments.
So let's go back 2 slides, Ajay bhai, to the letter. I want to mention that the letter actually is it's not just a template. They do have a template where any incident happens around the world, they will try to connect it to Hindus. Anything that they perceive will impact white Americans, especially left liberal Americans, to dislike Hindus in any way. They have a template, and they will immediately try to connect it. And they do that whenever possible, using a good amount of fake information. For example, the reason they mentioned the flag, the saffron flag, is because in their propaganda, they used a picture from August 5th, where a Hindu gentleman was celebrating the Supreme Court order of India allowing the Ram temple to be constructed in Ayodhya. That was on August 5th. And that celebration happened in front of the Capitol Hill. So there was one photograph they found on the internet where a Hindu from America was carrying a saffron flag celebrating the Supreme Court verdict in India while he was standing in front of the Capitol Hill. They took that picture from the internet, superimposed it with other pictures of the white supremacists or Trump supporters who were protesting at the Capitol Hill. They put these couple of pictures together, and that's how they came up with the narrative that there was somebody with the saffron flag, which is a saffron color is sacred to the Hindus, who was part of the mob that was attacking Capitol Hill, as they put it. So look at the narrative here. See, they can do research very fast and come up with fake news, but they didn't realize that this picture from August 5th is on the internet and people can easily go back and see it. It was in newspaper headlines on August 5th. Same picture. So they kind of made a mistake on that. What I find really sad is that not one Hindu organization went out and legally challenged these individuals and asked for Twitter and Facebook to take them off and close their accounts for this level of hatred and fake news peddling. Even though this is it has been clearly proven that this was a picture from August 5th that was used. So that shows the non-professional approach of many Hindu organizations, including ours, in many ways.
And then so that this I want to go back to the overall this anarchy, if you will. And this is not the and we should mention that this was not the first time that somebody has tried to take over the seat of power, if you will, whether it's the Capitol Hill or City Council office, any of that. You can see this image from Seattle City Council in 2020, where Kshama Sawant led the takeover of the Seattle City Council building. And there is a recall petition out there against her, actually, for inciting this particular act. And interestingly enough, the Seattle City Council has approved the city funding to defend her. Okay, so this is the Seattle City Council. This happened in America, in Wisconsin, and there's a typo here which I'll ignore for a second. But there you go. This is the Wisconsin Capitol that was taken over in 2011 as a protest against the bill that was passed by the then governor, which was perceived to be anti-labor. So this has happened. This is the same just in 2011, not that long ago, and this is the so this is something that is this is not and you have this this is the Capitol Hill protest that happened when Justice Kavanaugh was, nominated, right? And here is the image. Where is it from? This is Capitol Hill during Justice Kavanaugh, right?
That's correct. So the precedent. That's why in the beginning of our event, in our conversation today, I said that what happened at the Capitol Hill last week, in terms of its scale, is unique. In terms of its impact, is very unique. But it is not the first time that it was, it didn't come out of the blue. The precedence to it was being prepared, and the narrative was already prepared and being deployed in many state capitals. As you can see in these photographs, it was deployed in Seattle, it was deployed in Portland, it was also deployed at the Capitol Hill in a smaller scale during the confirmation hearing of Chief Justice, Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh. So there was already small little bits of erosion of public public order and democratic process that was happening over the last 6 months. It was just the other side doing it until what happened last week, when this erosion reached a point of extreme counter response from another side. So as they say, things as they appear cataclysmic on one day, one time, usually doesn't happen that cataclysmic in a cataclysmic way. There is a build up to it, and there are often nuances and details that we need to look at to understand why certain things happen in history at a point of time which look cataclysmic.
Yeah, and then this kind of attack on the seat of democracy is something that Pakistan did, right? When they attacked the Indian Parliament. I mean, the goal is that okay, let's go to the heart of democracy and attack democracy. Now, here is something that is really interesting that I found.
Hold on, Ajay bhai. I don't want to draw a parallel with Pakistan, because what Pakistan did on the Indian Parliament was basically an effort to kill the leadership of the country, whether it was in the ruling party or in the opposition party. So Pakistan's attack on Indian Parliament is a different level of attack. What is happening here is basically a general expression of distrust in the political process that started actually, it has been going on in the American political space for a while now. More and more people, elected officials, are looked upon with a lot of distrust. And it is not just happening from one political side. It is actually aided and abetted by both sides. And what you saw at the Capitol Hill was a culmination of that distrust and erosion of public trust in the elected process, which is very unfortunate, because whatever happens, if democracy dies, a lot of other things die with it in America and around the world.
Yeah, it's interesting because the farmer protests that are going on in India right now, right? And there are a lot of anarchists who are part of that farmers protest, and it's taken over by the Naxalites, who are the extreme leftist, Maoist, Leninist kind of group. In a lot of states in India, they have an armed insurgency kind of environment that they've created. It's not a huge group, so you don't hear about them in the papers all the time. It's probably a few hundred people in a country of 1.5 billion people. But there are a lot of urban people who are aligned with these Naxalites, and some of these people are called the urban Naxalites. And so that you may be interested to see this particular quote that came out just a few days ago. This is the way of writing date is Indian way of writing date is 10th of January 2021, and it's in Hindi. And this is the guy who claims to be a poet, Munawar Rana, and he said that the Indian Parliament should be burnt. So I'll read it, the Hindi part, and then we can talk about the English part. इस मुल्क के कुछ लोगों को रोटी तो मिलेगी, संसद को गिराकर वहां कुछ खेत बना दो, संसद को गिराकर वहां कुछ खेत बना दो, अब ऐसे बदलेगा किसान का मुकद्दर, सेठों के बनाए हुए गोदाम जला दो. Okay, what he's saying is go and destroy, go and burn the parliamentary building. Okay, and he said make farms over there so that the farmers can till that land. Okay, and then he's saying that burn down all the places where the grains are stored. Grain is stored, not grains. Grain, the grain is stored. The godowns or the big places where repositories of all these grains that they build in major trading posts. So he's saying burn all of those down. Okay. The interesting part to me, first of all, he's saying destroy the food to feed the farmers. Okay. And the second thing, he has such a disdain for democracy that he's saying burn the parliament. So, Utsula, your comments on this?
Well, I mean, see, the thing is that people like Munawar Rana are people who they are Islamists at their core, but they have a narrative that represents a left of center storyline and pretends to be a grassroots subaltern leftist narrative. Uh, and I mean, him asking for burning down the Indian Parliament is it's what they do. I mean, they don't believe in any democratic process. I mean, whether it's the Marxists, they believe in what they call as benevolent dictatorship, uh, according to their own ideological presentation. And so does the Islamists, who believe in the dictatorship of the religious state or the caliphate. So either way, it is my daughter has decided to join the conversation here.
All right.
So either way, I think it is interesting because it comes from the core of their ideology. And what you see here is them again expressing themselves, using events around the world that they can relate to, and violence around the world that they can relate to further their own agenda. But I think, people like Munawar Rana, I mean, I don't think it concerns American Hindus. It concerns Hindus in the Indian subcontinent, but I don't think it concerns American Hindus.
No,
And
it
I think,
doesn't. But see, I mean, there is this disdain for democracy and the disdain for places where where you would think are sacrosanct in terms of the deliberation, and that can take place where people can come together, people can the representatives of people can come together, representatives of people can discuss, and to bring anarchy into this, whether it is in the Seattle City Council, or whether it's in the Wisconsin State House or state capitol, or whether it's the U.S. Capitol. Be I think that we should stand firm against anarchy, because anarchists are always going to thrive whenever there's this disagreements between two sides, and that's natural, right? Political discourse by very nature represents at least multiple sides, at least two if not more. And to take a step that is where you which is anarchist, which leads to taking over by force, or giving a call for burning down a parliament, whether it's in India or whether it's in America or any country. I think that shows that the anarchist, there is always an anarchist lurking to take advantage of a, a reasonable disagreement and add fuel to the fire. And that is why I especially bring this up.
well, the dependence on violent takeover is a fundamental tool that is employed by people who do not believe in an evolutionary process. Uh, and this evolutionary process of public governance is something not it's something very new to the Western world. As much as the world now sees democracy as a Western concept, uh, it was not that way for the longest period of time. And so, modern democracies in the timeline of human existence are very, very young. And that's why I think, people who hark back to ideologies that have a more longer presence in history and are known for their brutality and their aggressive ability to take power, do not trust democracies. And time and again, you see these being reflected in the writings of whether they're Islamists, whether they're Marxists. This underlying anarchism comes out. They may come out in the context of the event that is happening today, but the roots of those concepts come from historical ideological roots.
And also, the funny part is that this press release that we've been talking about from Aspire and CAPI makes no mention of someone, like makes mention of all the BJP and right-wing Hindutva ideology and Nazis and takeover of democracy and all of that, makes no mention of Munawar Rana calling for burning down the parliamentary building. And they are, on one hand, they're like, oh, we are for democracy and we are for the preservation of this great temple of democracy that is the US Capitol. But then they're absolutely silent when Munawar Rana calls for burning down the parliamentary, the parliament building in India. And that is where lies the irony and the hypocrisy in the world that we live in today. Okay, so
Well,
Utsara, but
Ajay
we are
bhai,
very
while you Hindus, we Hindus are working hard to make the pillars of democracy strong. Uh, Islamists like the people from Aspire and Kapi, as well as Munamar Rana, are working hard to make the pillars of hypocrisy strong. So
yeah.
you work on the pillars of democracy, they work on the pillars of hypocrisy. The question is who wins at the end.
So that such an apt analogy. I think you deserve a round of applause for that. Uh, so I will give you a round of applause for making such a nice.
Ajay bhai, like the Hindutva community in America, that was a very weak applause.
Oh, you want a stronger approach. Okay, why did you say that? You should say that. Okay, all right. Let's give you a bigger applause for the great point that you made today. So, how about like a really really loud approach?
I like that. I can go with
Did
that.
that make you happy? See, now you're smiling and you're laughing and you seem to be having fun now. That's good.
No,
Uh,
I'm always fine.
I don't know about that. It's you're too serious. But we did put our stand has always been consistent, right? So we put out a statement, and we said that look, everyone has a democratic right to peaceful protest, and we said that riots and protests of this kind undermine the democracy and the democratic process, and they must be denounced by all. And we also said that we also believe there is no place for flags of any country other than the USA at these protests. And we think that the attempt to link the Indian flag to Hindus by Hindu phobes has failed after the identity of the person who carried the flag was revealed. And then there was a specific statement that you added. That was your statement, and maybe you can talk about it.
The statement. Oh
I
no!
see it on the
Regarding
screen.
the statement about the, yeah. So
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that this form of grievance redressal, whether it was done by the leftists and the pro democrats at Seattle or Portland, or at a larger scale by pro Trump supporters at the Capitol Hill, this kind of grievance redressal is not something that should be accepted. It should be criticized by all sides, and it should be criticized unequivocally, because the problem is that even when these events are happening, there is always one side that finds it convenient to stay silent because its agenda is being served. So when this was happening in Seattle and Portland, they were the left of center was quite silent and abetting it because it suited their agenda. Now that it's happening from the Trump supporters side, the Trump supporters are silent about it and justifying it. This is not justifiable. This cannot be done in any democracy, and we need to be unequivocally condemning it all the time.
That absolutely makes sense. And so that I had a separate statement as well on this, and I said the American news are categorically against any rioting, and that we believe that riots and anarchy have no place in a democracy. We believe that the right to peaceful process is sacrosanct, and an orderly transfer of the power is essential for survival of democracy. Hindu Pact was against Antifa takeover of the public spaces during the past summer, and we are against the breach of Capitol Hill by the rioters in Washington, D.C. this week. We note with dismay that an Indian flag was seen at the demonstration. We believe that the Indian flag or flag of any country had any place at the demonstration. We don't should not have any place at the demonstration when issues at stake are internal to that country. This is again consistent with the stand we had taken when foreign flags were seen during protests and riots in summer. So we have been consistent in the stand that we have taken. Utsada, I want to come out of the share now, and I just have a general discussion with you about this. Just that the fallout for this was that But there's a lot of social the something that we have seen it evolve over the last few years, and that is what we would call the cancel culture. So a democracy, a healthy democracy, should always have public spaces, even in public spaces that are open for exchange of dialogue and exchange of ideas. Because once you start suppressing that, then the anger that builds out comes out in a very negative way. And so the cancel culture that we see in America, and we don't have a lot of time today to talk about cancel culture that we had planned, but suffice to say that this cancel culture, which led to Twitter banning, for example, President Trump, or Google and Apple taking Parler off the App Store, Amazon removing the Parler from their servers, and this kind of and increasingly these public spaces are controlled by private enterprises, and private enterprises can throw this terms of services at people and say, look, you're violating our terms of service, we're going to deplatform you, right? So this deplatform movement is now taking root, and there have been enough of as you probably have seen this. I was not going to show slides, but you probably seen this set of articles that came out, because this is kind of herd mentality. You see one, and you see hundreds of articles like this, right? Facebook's hate speech rules collide with Indian politics, and so this kind of there have already been similar attacks on people who are pro-Hindu from the leftist forces. And I don't want to say anything that would endorse in any way the protests or incitement of violence or any of that. We are not for that, but we think that, especially we really think that the public space, there should be venues for people to speak and people to openly dialogue and debate. Because if you don't have that, it really there will be the expressions have to come out, and they'll come out in a way that are not positive. And you can see this same kind of attacks have started against Hindu supporters. It's just after this Facebook article came out, and then there was and then again, this is a herd mentality, right? So then once the Wall Street Journal article came out, Scroll, which is extreme leftist paper, why the allegations about Facebook favoring BJP are so significant in Indian politics. The name of the article, written by Shoaib Daniel, and the party has weaponized. So there's already this, narrative being built that the party has weaponized social media networks for political use, and this narrative is now building up. Utsuda, your comments.
I think it's a completely, for lack of a more polite word, BS, is completely crap narrative. That what does it mean by party weaponizing social media? Every political party which participates in elections around the world in any democratic country uses social media to promote its agenda. Just throwing the word weaponize in it to make it sound sinister doesn't mean anything. So this gentleman, Shoaib Daniel, who if you look up his articles, is also an Islamist and finds a space on a leftist newspaper called Scroll, portal called Scroll, is just trying to make something that is very natural, very modern. All political parties, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, they're political leaders in America, around the world, any democracy, nowadays have a social media account and share their ideas, their supporters, their narratives on social media. How does that weaponize social media? It doesn't. So this is a complete BS fake narrative. It tries to make something that is very normal, very natural, and very good to look like something very sinister by throwing the word in weaponize into it. And I think it is also a show of frustration, because for the longest time, especially after 2016, when Americans elected President Trump as their president, there has been a lot of heartburn in the global left and the global Islamist community about their inability to connect and deplatform India's ruling party, the BJP, and its Prime Minister Modi, who is looked as somebody who is more sympathetic towards Hindus. They have been trying to deplatform him and demonize him and his ideas in the same way they have done in the West. The President Trump has been demonized, and
Well,
it worked very well in the West, and they were very successful. But they have not been successful in the Indian subcontinent because, as you know, lo behold, surprise, Prime Minister Modi is not the same as President Trump. In fact, he's probably his policies are some of the most grassroots pro poor people policies the world has ever seen, at least that part of the world has ever seen. So naturally, the social media has not targeted him in the same way that these Islamists and extreme left wants to target him. And that's why you see this kind of frustration, and you know, it's a heartburn for these communities.
yeah, and that's where people like there's a recent article, and unfortunately we don't have time to go into it today, but maybe in future we'll go through. There's an article in a Washington Post by Rana Ayub that talks about that equates the mob protest on the U.S. Parliament with the Babri structure takedown, right? And here is the and this is heard again, right? So once the article comes in one paper, it comes on every paper, and you can see that Quartz, which is another left-leaning paper, in an article by Manvi Kapoor, says that the attack on U.S. Capitol reminds Indians of mob violence at home. Really, if Manvi had half her brains, right, she would have equated that structure, which was a sign of slavery, coming down to this taking down of Confederate statues, not a mob violence at the Capitol, but you know that people like Manvi, who understand have no historic context, who understand nothing about the history of Hindus and past 1,000 years of how Hindus have lived through hell with all the foreign invasions. They and you know She doesn't understand her own history based on what her name indicates. These are the people who are building these false narratives of blaming the instead of blaming the people who were the slave owners and people who were enslaving Hindus. They're equating them with people who are fighting for the freedom. And instead of saying that the Babri structure is the same as Confederate statue, they are equating that with the mob violence on the Capitol. So that this is as much as it makes me angry that somebody can do that to Hindus, it makes me even more sad that someone is so ignorant of history. Okay, and that really cannot stand. We have to come up, and we have to. That's what we have to do. That's what I do. I cannot
Well, again,
hold.
I think you missed the point where the thing is that it's not that they care about history or they care about they don't know much and they are ignorant. It's not that. You think Washington Post? Why is Rana Ayub an opinion writer at Washington Post? What's Rana Ayub's claim to fame? You have to look into that to understand where it is coming from. So it is not about lack of knowledge. It is not about lack of information or lack of facts. All those things are right there for everybody to see. It's what is the intent behind these lack of knowledge, lack of facts, and lack of knowledge of history. So I think what we need to call out, and we need to call out consistently, is that we have to ask the question: why is Rana Ayub an opinion writer at Washington Post, a supposedly intellectual newspaper with amazing history and track record around the world, like Washington Post? What has it come to now, where somebody like Rana Ayub actually writes about India? 1/5 of the human population, opinion and ideas and news analysis is being represented by somebody like Rana Ayub, whose claim to fame is just one thing: pure hatred for Hindus. It started in 2002, and that's how it continues. I mean, that shows what we come to, and it is much more a statement on Washington Post than anything to do with Hindus. And I think our effort, your and mine effort, and effort of our community, should be to share this part of the story with the rest of the American community. I think that is where our goal should be. That is what our intent should be, to highlight the agenda of these individuals and media outlets.
Absolutely. I think that Sudha, you have put it very aptly, and I completely agree with you on that. So now with that, we come to our final two segment, the one that everyone generally waits for, and the first one is the Hindu Seva Act of the week.
Well,
And
Ajay bhai, you go ahead and please talk about it.
so Hindu Seva Act of the Week, Utsuda, is once again, support a child. Because the reason I bring this up is because in the next, yesterday we had the Hasya Kavi Sammelan, which is the, the poem, the humorous poems, or convention of humor poets. That was yesterday. But on next week, on January 16th, they have this amazing dance drama, Atithi Devo Bhava. The guest is equivalent to, or like, treat your guest as if you're treating, as if God is visiting you at your home. So respect the guest. And this is, I've seen this once before. And this is a truly, truly amazing dance drama where people from all different parts of India are performing coherently the regional dances and music in one show. And if you ever wanted to have a cultural visit of India, sitting on your laptop or your desktop computer, and you want to virtually visit India, cultural visit through India, there's no better show than this. So I would urge everyone to join and then contribute to Support a Child project. This year, the goal is to support 3,500 kids in India. And then on January 23rd, it's Bhava Rasa Tala. It's a fusion music show of multiple genres combined with complex rhythms, all in a single show, seamlessly flowing from one type of music to another type of music. It brings out this, the harmony among all the facets of Hindu Dharma in cultural form. And then finally, on January 30th, it's by the youth, for the youth, a variety dance and music program from teams across America, and all of them performing from remotely from wherever they are. They never really got together in one place, but they're all in different places, and they're still putting together a show. And please join, encourage the youth who are performing, and at the same time donate to Support a Child. So that those are the three remaining programs, and the Hasya Kavi Sammelan will also be available for a replay. It's available on YouTube, but we'll also put up a Facebook event around it one more time, so people who missed it can watch it. And with that, Utsuda, we come to the final part of our of our program, the Hindu Folk of the Week. All right, who is the Hindu Folk of the Week?
Well, actually, it's a bunch of individuals, Ajay bhai, because the Hindu Phobe of the Week this week is the group that promoted the narrative where that Hindus who were carrying saffron flags in front of the Capitol Hill were part of the mob for the protests and the riots that happened last week. And the photograph was from August 5, when a couple of American Hindus were celebrating the Supreme Court's decision of India to build a Ram temple at Ayodhya after 400 years of its destruction by Islamists. And that case, Hindus waited 150 years to win this case, without actually trying to build it illegally there. And the Hindu activists were celebrating it at the National Mall in front of the Capitol Hill on August 5. That photograph was taken by three main individuals. One of them is named Mohammad Zubair. The other two are pro-Pakistani activist Ashok Swine and an Indian journalist named Sagarika Ghosh, who's, I don't know why she used that image. Uh, so they used that fake image and tried to connect it just because the Capitol Hill was in the background. That was the only thing. They connected it to the Capitol Hill riots and shared it all over the internet, on Twitter, on Facebook, to create an impression that Hindutva activists were part of the mob. And I think that shows the amount of hatred that Muhammad Zubair and Ashok Swine and Sagarika Ghosh by extension have for the Hindu community. It could not have been a mistake because it was clearly visible, and it came in multiple newspapers on August 5th in India. So that photograph was all over the internet prior to what happened last week. These people had to have gone online to search for an image with the saffron flag in front of the Capitol Hill and connect it deliberately. So that amount of hatred for Hindus just to make a propaganda point is really sad and unfortunate, and it should be a wake-up call again, as we say every week, to the Hindu community in America, that they might have no clue about what's happening around them, and they might be living their lives as happy suburban families with 2 cars and 3 kids in colleges, but they are up to facing a serious threat in America, and the future of the Hindu community in America, including the parents and the children, is in serious threat.
So that can we call this actually this particular act weaponizing of internet, weaponizing of social media?
This is weaponizing of social media against Hindu communities, especially Hindu communities in America, because by creating these kinds of fake stories, fake news, it is basically setting the Hindu community up in America for hatred by non-Hindus. For example, if we had not exposed this, or if this photo had not been exposed as being, a photo from August 5th that was being used, I can tell you there would be hundreds and hundreds and thousands of left-leaning anti-Trump Americans who would genuinely believe that Hindus were part of the mob and they were trying to, so the level of hatred that would have created. I'm not saying I may disagree with these, anti-Trump activists on issues concerning American politics, but that dislike or that disagreement should not translate into pure and blind hatred. And this kind of fake news building is an effort to build hatred against Hindus in America. And if we caught it this time, there will be many more times when it will not be caught. And it has happened in the past with such efforts being made. So, it is a threat to American Hindus. And I think if we do not come together to expose these people and show their real agenda and actually, get them prosecuted, because this is criminal. So we need to make sure that we get these people prosecuted. Unfortunately, our community doesn't come together to put together the resources and the abilities we need to even do that. The very basic thing of self-defense, we don't do it. So it's unfortunate, but there is only such platforms like Hindu Pact where I can share these kinds of disappointments. So here you go.
Very well put, Sada. Very well put. You deserve this.
Okay, that's a nice loud clap, Ajay. Thank you so much.
And with that, Sada, we come to the end of today's program. We have a lot of comments, and I think I'll just read a couple of these comments, one of these comments at least. And Garang by Vaishnav, who has been the past, General Secretary of World Hindu Council of America, member of the advisory board, has said that can Hindu Pact sue Sagarika Ghosh, etc., for slanderous propaganda about the doctored narratives with Hindus? RSS waving flags? Question mark. We can talk all we want, but unless we take them to court, nothing will change. So these are the people who are in India. So it would be pretty hard to sue them. However, they are violating the copyright of our picture, and they're spreading false narrative. And so we are reaching out to Twitter to immediately take down some of these posts, and some of these posts have already been taken down as a result of our approaching the authors of the post. And as we speak, Twitter is being approached, and I think this is not something that we are going to take it lightly ever. We are not going to take it and have no action on it from our side when people are constructing fake news.
I think we should also at least make go on record to Washington Post and Twitter, because as much as we should be doing more, I don't see enough being done on this issue. Uh, I think this is one example where we should really go all out to show that we are watching what's going on. We may not be favored, we may not be rich and powerful to take on these forces, and obviously we are not powerful enough to take on Washington Post. But if we go on record, at least there is record of what we are facing here,
Absolutely.
and so we
Yeah.
should absolutely do this. And thank I thank Goran Bhai for bringing this up. Being a senior and elder to yeah, activists like myself, I look up to him for such thoughts and advice and support in making this happen.
Absolutely. So now we come to the end of today's show. So another great conversation. I cannot thank you enough. I want to tell everyone that you've been watching Hindu Lounge, which is a presentation of Hindu Pact, which is a policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, WHPA, with Utsav Chakrabarti and Ajay Shah. We come live
And
every
Maya Durga Chakravarti.
and
Today she was a little busy.
Maya Durga Chakravarti. And we come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern. Please join us again next week when we bring up a new topic which is contemporaneous and America and relevant to American Hindus. With that, Utsoda, I want to say thank you again and namaste. And we will, we'll see everyone again next Sunday at 11 o'clock, right?
Absolutely. Look forward to everybody seeing everybody next Sunday. And namaste, everybody. Have a nice remaining Sunday and a good week ahead of you.